What's going on, everyone? This is Jags Central, and I hope you're all doing well. You guys have probably heard, and if you haven't heard already, Trevor Lawrence has an injury that he sustained in the Eagles game last Sunday on his left shoulder. As of now, it seems like he's going to be out for this Sunday's game against the Minnesota Vikings. And it probably is true because at the moment it hasn't been made official or anything. But with CJ Beathard being picked up from a practice squad from another team, I think it was the Miami Dolphins, I literally cannot remember. And there's also talk about him possibly being shut down for the rest of the season. And there's also talk about surgery as well. With our record being at 2-7, this is the only reason that there's a possibility of him being shut down and him having surgery and whatnot. Because had we been 4-4, there would be no talk of shutting down. Trevor Lawrence is a tough dude. We saw that last season where he had multiple injuries. I think he had a shoulder injury last year, an ankle injury, and I can't remember what other body part was injured for him. And he thugged it out all the way to the end of the season. And that's because we also had playoff implications as a possibility. We were top of the AFC. And he carried on playing through those injuries. And that is something what a lot of players do as well, who have playoff opportunities. Like if Joe Burrow gets injured right now or Lamar Jackson have a left shoulder injury, they'll be playing it through because they know they have a chance to get into the playoff. But at the moment, the risk reward at the moment isn't quite there. It doesn't make sense. From a team perspective, they've just paid Trevor Lawrence right now. What is the point? This is his first year into his big contract. There's no need to get him injured. And if our record was 4-4, fair enough. There's a chance of getting into the playoffs and potentially winning the Super Bowl. Even though any team that gets into the playoffs doesn't mean they have a realistic chance of winning the Super Bowl. But if you're there, you have a chance. At the moment, there's two types of Jaguar fans. Actually, three. The first type is the minority, the ones that think, you know what, we can win 8 games on the bounce, finish a record with 10-7, get into the playoffs and blah, blah, blah. I would have been that type of optimistic Jaguars fan, but at 2-7, I know there isn't a chance that my team isn't going to win 8 on the bounce and get into the playoffs. If they do, I will be over the moon and I'll be supporting them. But then there's this two other half, which are basically the majority, either the ones that want the Jaguars to still win games, be competitive and whatnot, and there's the other side that want the Jaguars just to completely lose all their games and make a losing season. Like if you're going to lose properly and get a high draft pick, which I understand, but I'm on the side of like, let's just win our games, be competitive, because I'm still going to be watching the Jaguars game. So I don't want to be watching and hoping for my team to lose, and I don't want them to be losing games that they're not competitive in as well. So I want them to be competitive. Even if they lose, it's fine. You just the effort that you want. If we win some games and go 4-4 or 5-5, whatever amount of games is left, and we finish with like a 6-11 record or a 7-10 record, we won't get into the playoffs. But then, of course, we damage our draft position, and then it doesn't give us the opportunity to pick the best players. But at the same time, it's not a guarantee. The teams who pick first doesn't mean they're going to get a stud or they're going to get a game changer. You've seen it with with last year's draft pick where Bryce Young, I'm not saying he's a failure or anything, but he hasn't lived up to the hype, and it's during his second season. And the Jaguars are not in a team which is in a full, complete rebuild. They just need a few tools here and there to be changed within the team to make them competitive again. But then also there's possibility that maybe we do need some coordinator change. We might need a head coach change. But there's a lot of change that need to be happen, but I don't feel like the Jaguars are in a position to be like, you know what, let's tank, let's get a top 5 pick, to be like, you know what, we're going to go for a full rebuild, because they've got a franchise QB. Because I am a Trevor Lawrence believer. I think he's the guy that we need at the helm. Of course, if you wanted Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, that's different. But I think Trevor Lawrence is definitely a starting level quarterback, and he's a franchise QB. We have a young wide receiver in Brian Thomas Jr. I think the O-line this year has shown that they're pretty good this year. We have a young defense. We have 2 amazing pass rushers, Josh Allen and also Trayvon Walker. We have a amazing cornerback in Tyson Campbell. But there's a few different places in the team that we need to improve on a little bit. But I think it's not a team that it needs a complete rebuild, that needs a few losing seasons where they become, all right, cool, this amazing team like the Lions. I really think that we're going to be one of those teams that, all right, we've had a losing season, but then bam, you become a team that goes into playoffs and does some damage. Because if you actually look at this team, they've had 2 winning records. They have a 9-8 record. Last season seems like a losing record because we didn't get into the playoffs and we didn't win our division. But I think this team just needs a bit of a change, and it could be a head coaching change, and it also could be a coordinator change. But then there's also some change that needs to be done on both sides of the ball, or all 3 sides of the ball. Let's not forget special teams. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think Trevor Lawrence should be shut down for the rest of the season, or do you think he should carry on playing for the rest of the season? Because I think if he's able to play him. But if it's a risk that he could potentially damage his shoulder even further, then let's just shut him down for the rest of the season and let's not risk it. But I would love to see him play, because we'll be able to see him develop a better chemistry with Brian Thomas Jr. But then he would also help Gabe Davis. We need to see whether Gabe Davis is a player that we should be keeping for the long term. Even though he's just signed this season, him being traded or him being cut isn't out of the window, because you've seen teams sign players and then cut them 6 weeks later, or 6 games into the season, for to be specific. But then there's also times where teams have had a player for 1 season, even though they've had him on a 3-year contract, they just cut him or just trade him or whatnot. So for me, it's also a time like for us to see in these games who are the players that we can potentially rely on in the future, because some Jag fans would say, let's just tear down the whole team and let's get a bunch of new players. And that's something that's not really realistic, to be honest, because you can't get rid of 53 guys and bring in a whole new 53 guys. It's probably going to be a change of 20, 30 players or so. But yeah, let me not waffle anymore, but just let me know what you guys think, whether you think Trevor Lawrence should be shut down for the rest of the season or he should be brought back when he's basically fit enough to play.